An unprecedented global pandemic is impacting people of all ages and industries of all sizes. This week, we look at the coronavirus's potential impact on Michigan's agriculture industry and what it means for farmers. I'm Janelle Brose, and this is Farm News 5.
Farm News 5 is brought to you by Ford.
It's been a whirlwind week in Michigan, across the country, and around the world as local, state, and federal officials attempt to slow the spread of the coronavirus. In Michigan, bars and dine-in restaurants were closed, large gatherings were quashed, and people are being urged to keep their distance from others while out in public. We're sitting down with industry experts this week to find out what this outbreak means for Michigan agriculture.
I think it's important to understand that coronaviruses have been around for some time. We've dealt with them in the human population. We've dealt with them in the animal population. This is just a new strain that we have no natural immunity built up within our system because it's a new virus. And viruses have to work themselves through a population, whether it's in the human population or it's in an animal population. It is by nature a zoonotic disease. Animal health officials have indicated there's a very low probability that it can transfer back and forth between humans and populations with this particular strain. We need to be diligent in our approach and vigilant in our actions and making sure that we're protecting our families, our workers, and our farms. And if farmers have employees who are sick, have them stay home. That's critically important. The best way to deal with any health situation, whether it's in the human or animal population, is to not allow it to spread. We don't want to commingle, just like we don't want to commingle livestock that are sick, we don't want our people commingling either. So let's make sure that we remain vigilant in our actions in dealing with those. Everyone is wondering what's going to happen long term. And the answer right now is we don't know. What we do know for sure is that short-term demand has been very good. If you take a look at what has been happening at the retail level at your local grocery stores, products have been flying off the shelves. And wouldn't it be great if there was that much of a strong demand on a daily basis during normal times for all of our great agricultural products? But certainly short-term demand has been very good. The real concern has to be, what does this mean for long-term demand? When the initial buying and purchasing power and the excitement of it wears off, what is that going to mean for our commodity prices long term? If you take a look at the impact that closing down restaurants have, the impact of students not going to schools and not consuming dairy products on a daily basis, maybe as much at home as what they would have at school, certainly there will be an impact. How long that impact will last, we don't know, but the important thing is we need to make sure that we work with state and federal agencies and all of our partners to make sure that we minimize that impact as much as possible.
Birchmeyer says Michigan Farm Bureau staff is working hard to ensure its members can continue to farm, even with the challenges the industry faces.
At the same time, we need to make sure that we're working with state and federal agencies to make sure that the food products that our farmers produce on a daily basis continue to have the ability to be transported for processing, that processing remains open, that the processors can then retransport that product back to the retail level, and that our retailers have the opportunity to continue to make that product available on their shelves. It is important that our consumers understand that our farmers are out there operating on a daily basis and that the system is still in place to allow for them to have the opportunity to go to the grocery store, to buy the products that they need, to keep their families fed, to keep everyone healthy, and to continue to operate as normal as possible.
If you want a car from a company that's been building them for 115 years, get a Ford. If you want a car with driver assist technology, get a Ford. You're gonna want a Ford.
COVID-19's impact is hitting close to home for the state's specialty crop producers as the production cycle begins over the next few weeks and the need for labor ramps up. Katie Vargas, operations manager for Great Lakes Ag Labor Services, says they are monitoring the situation at the Mexican border following various announcements by their consulate this week.
So we first heard late on Monday evening that the consulates in Mexico were suspending all visa processing. And obviously that was a huge concern for the ag community in trying to get H-2A workers here. Since that time, the consulates in Mexico have clarified that they will continue to process H-2 visas. However, they do need to take measures to comply with the recommendations for social distancing. And so the way that they're doing that is giving priority to renewal workers. And renewal workers are workers who are returning. They had an H-2A visa in the past 12 months that expired. They didn't have any immigration issues in the past that have come up. So those workers do not actually need to go in for an in-person interview, and that's why they're getting this priority. So they're continuing to process, but at a limited capacity. We still do have concerns on whether or not that limited capacity will meet the entire demand.
Vargas says between Great Lakes Ag Labor Services, the National Council of Agriculture Employers, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture, it's all hands on deck to help growers navigate the changing circumstances.
USDA has been very involved in this process, very much understands the importance of H-2A workers to our ag industry. So we are being very proactive in our discussions on this. Right now, we're trying to evaluate the circumstances as they change. Growers should be reaching out to their H-2A agents, their farm labor contractors, if they're using one, to try and engage what their specific situation looks like. Continue to be attentive to the same changing circumstances with this. But right now, we've got task forces that are working with the government agencies on resolving the issue and having a plan in place.
In 2019, there were 258,000 certified workers in the H-2A program. 93% of those H-2A workers came from Mexico.
Make sure your wishes are carried out. Let Foster Swift create an estate plan that provides you peace of mind. Learn more at fosterswift.com.
What should Farm Bureau members be doing to protect their employees amid the coronavirus epidemic? Craig Anderson, manager of Agricultural Labor and Safety Services for Michigan Farm Bureau, says, for starters, agriculture is uniquely positioned to weather a virus outbreak and that members should basically stick to what they've been doing.
We look at everything from good agricultural practices through ISO standards, Food Modernization Act. Each one of those has developed a program for most farms that include a risk assessment, a risk modification, and a reduction structure. Those practices are what we are going to use and what is being recommended by CDC for other industries and our homes to restrict, remove, and mitigate the coronavirus challenge.
And Anderson says the food supply shouldn't be impacted if a worker becomes ill with a coronavirus or another illness.
The agricultural industry, from production all the way through the food packaging and processing structure, is reasonably prepared. One of the great things with this structure is that we have been able to find that the ability to transmit on food is incredibly low compared to other potential food pathogens, according to the FDA. Surface contact. We use a significant amount of surface contact protection in terms of our food production. So those practices are already embedded in our day-to-day activities out there. And our food surfaces have significantly improved to minimize the ability of any pathogen to be able to remain on the surface. So if we do have a report of an individual that may have been in contact or thinks they may have been in contact, one of the best things to do is contact the local health department.
For more news and resources related to the coronavirus, visit MishFB.com or MichiganFarmNews.com. With Farm News 5, I'm Janelle Brose. Have a great week of farming, and don't forget to wash your hands.